Lessons from Training for a Triathlon, Episode 31. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Profit with Law. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel. And today I wanted to dive into some personal experiences that, upon reflection, could prove to be extremely valuable to hitting some goals in your law firm and being able to grow your firm well beyond where you've able to get it so far. And one of the issues when it comes to growing your firm is that you might find that it's become stagnant, or you've kind of hit a wall. You've gotten to a certain point, and then you got stuck and you hit a plateau. One of the reasons that plateau was hit is because you might have lost some intentionality in the things that you're doing. You might have done things just by rote, the way that you were used to or what was working, and gotten away from being intentional with moving forward. So I've experienced some things in my life recently that have alluded to or helped with some of the things that you might find helpful by making this correlation to your firm. So I wanted to jump in with that. I'm going to start with a story to tell you how I got to this point, and then we can make those correlations and you'll see how it all comes together. I started talking in recent episodes about my journey with health and where my priorities lie. And I want to take you back to January because that's where a conversation that I had with a particular coach of mine opened my eyes to a new way of thinking about my personal health. And that kind of started me on a certain path this year that it's been a bumpy road, but has eventually taken me to where I am today. So in January, I shared with my coach that one of my struggles and things that frustrates me is that I put my family first, and that is my priority in life and in my existence. And what I found is that taking care of myself always gets moved to the back burner. And that includes, getting the right amount of sleep, eating right, and also exercising. And I was not going out and exercising at all. I was living a very sedentary lifestyle, but not because I wanted to, just because that was automatically what was happening. And in that conversation, he made 2 points. One was one that I've made before myself, but didn't really hit home. And that is, if you care so much about your family, then what about doing what's necessary to make sure you stick around? If you don't take care of yourself, then you're in essence shortening your life. You could die tomorrow from not taking care of yourself. And then, where does that leave your family? Now, that particular argument did not really resonate with me as the motivating factor to get things going, simply because it's kind of like if you go to a smoker and you say, you're going to suffer in your 70s with emphysema if you're smoking now and they're in their 20s. Imagining how bad life is going to be 50 years later because of something they're doing now is just something that's difficult to believe or to picture, and therefore it's not very effective as far as a motivational factor. So the same thing here, like I know I'm overweight. I know I'm not as healthy as I should be, but am I really killing myself? Is this really something that's going to affect my family today? Or is it going to be something that happens, 70 when I'm in my 70s and therefore my kids are grown and it doesn't really affect them in that way. So that argument although it's a good argument, was one that I kind of discounted. However, what my coach shared with me was even more profound, and that was, if you care so much about your kids, everything that you do is something that is setting an example, setting a precedent for them to follow. Now, what kind of example are you showing your children when you always put them first and you do not take care of yourself? What kind of example are you showing your kids as far as what they should be doing to take care of themselves and where they should be on the priority spectrum when it comes to others? If you want to teach them to take care of themselves, and I imagine as a parent that's what you would want, then it would behoove you to lead by example. And that statement is really what hit home for me. And that's when I really realized that what I was doing was not putting them first. What I was doing was selfishly using them as an excuse to not do the hard work and take care of myself. And that's when I decided back in January that this was where I was drawing the line, and I was not going to continue living this way. Now, I started by going to Pilates. Ultimately, I ended up pulling a muscle in one of my workouts, and at the same time had some sort of weird nerve thing that happened on my temple and scalp. Some sort of neuralgia that I correlated to the muscle that I pulled, in Pilates. And I also didn't see that I was getting, I felt progress in my core strength, but I didn't see any progress on the scale, and I didn't see any progress in the way I felt day to day and, throughout my existence. So I decided to go to a local gym that has, personal trainers, and I signed up for a personal trainer who also put me on a meal plan, and I started doing that. So that I started actually the beginning of July, and I've made a lot of progress. And for those ladies listening to this podcast, I'm going to share some numbers. Please do not listen to them in a way that discourages you, because my understanding is that guys can lose and shed weight a lot easier than women can. So from July 10th to August 10th, in the first month, I lost 20 pounds. And since then, I haven't weighed myself, not last week, not this week, but 2 weeks ago. So about another week later, I had been down 25 pounds. So the weight is just melting off from me from a combination of eating properly, drinking a lot of water, and going to the gym twice a week to work out with a personal trainer. Now, my personal trainer said, I want you to be doing cardio in between our sessions. You should be doing cardio every day. So 6 to 7 days a week, you should be doing cardio. And I was only doing cardio on the days that I was meeting with my personal trainer. And I was finding that it was just difficult to make the commitment to do the cardio on the other days. So kind of falling into the same trap that I had been living until now. At the same time that I was struggling with this, lack of motivation or inability to schedule the time to do the cardio, I've mentioned before that one of my coaches is James Wedmore, and he deals specifically with coaches, authors, content and course creators, and he has a product called Business by Design. So he recently did his once-a-year launch where he sells that course to people who are new to the industry and either trying to start their business, or they already have a business, they're trying to bring it online, or they've already tried to bring it online and have done so unsuccessfully, so they're looking for help. And because I'm in that community, when all the new students come in, there's a lot of buzz in his group. And one of the posts in there was, hey, where are you from? And, so I obviously want to see if there's people in my area that I can connect with. And I came across, some people who were in the New York area, which is where I am, and started to converse with one of them, who it turns out she is a triathlete. And she does triathlons, And we started talking about my health journey, and she said, why don't you try a triathlon? Now, another person that I've looked up to over the years, Cliff Ravenscraft, who also has a podcast called the Cliff Ravenscraft Show, and goes now by the Mindset Answer Man. But back when I started following him, he went by the podcast Answer Man, and he's actually the person that taught me how to podcast. So I've been following him for a long time, and in 2012, 2014, somewhere in that range, he made a proclamation on his podcast saying that he was changing his fitness moving forward, and he was going to work out 6 days a week, and that was going to be what he was going to do for the rest of his life. And I believe that by and large he has stuck to that. But in following his journey, and he gets very personal on his podcast, following his journey, he ended up doing a century bike ride, and then he ended up doing a triathlon as well. So I've always had in my mind that, because I look up to him, that my health journey, at some point, I would want to do the same thing. I'd want to do a century ride. I'd want to do a triathlon. So when this person shared with me that she was a triathlete and we were talking about my health journey, she said, why don't you try a triathlon? And I naively told her, well, I don't know anything about doing a triathlon. What does it entail? She said, well, all you have to do is find a race that you're interested in and sign up for it. So I started looking, and a lot of the races were too close in time. Oh, one more caveat that I want to throw in is that I asked her how, a triathlon sounds overwhelming. What's the length? What's involved? And she explained to me that there were 4 or 5 different lengths of triathlons. So the shortest is called a sprint, and it's actually not terrible. So it's a 400-meter swim, which is a quarter of a mile swim. It's a 10K bike ride, which is about 10.6 miles, and then or maybe that's a 15K. I'm not sure. It's 10.6 mile bike ride and then 3.2 mile run. And the 3.2 mile run is a 5K. So whatever that works out to be, I guess it's maybe a 15K bike ride. So it's a swim, bike, run of those lengths, which is probably, when you're actually doing the race, probably a 2 to 3 hour commitment, 2.5 hour commitment. So that to me seemed like very doable distances. Now I do ride a road bike, so not nearly as much as I should and would like to, but 10 miles on the road bike did not seem very difficult to me at all. I do not run at all, so 3 miles running did sound like something that I'd have to try to figure out how to do. And then the swim, a quarter of a mile swim, turns out to be about 16 laps in a mini Olympic pool, which has 25-meter lanes. Also didn't seem to be crazy. I do know how to swim. I was a lifeguard when I was a teenager, and I do, I do swim every summer. So not for exercise, but, I get in the water. So I figured this all seems very doable. So I started looking for a race that's in my area and far enough out. Now, mind you, this is happening the end of July, beginning of August. So a lot of the races were coming up in August and September, and they all seemed to be too close. So I found one that's on October 6th, and it's in Belmar, New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore. And October 6th is also my son's birthday, and I figured that this would be apropos to achieve this kind of feat on his birthday. And it was also far enough out that it was basically a little over 2 months out when I was looking. So that seemed like something I could prepare for. So I signed up for the triathlon. I made the decision that I'm going to do it. And immediately, as a person who listens and loves podcasts, I immediately searched iTunes to try to find a podcast that would, that would help me in understanding how to train for triathlon. So I found a podcast, and I want to give him credit where it's due. So I'm actually going to quickly pull up my podcast app here and just look up the name of the show. So the name of the show is That Triathlon Show, and it's by a guy by the name of Michael. And I noticed that he has a number of episodes, not in order, they're kind of peppered in there, that are for beginners. So I started listening to some of the beginner episodes, and maybe on the second or third one I was listening to, he made a comment, and he said that most people who have never done a triathlon before, when they sign up for a triathlon, usually pick a race about 2 months out. And after receiving so many requests from people who were just getting started, who were brand new with a race 2 months out looking for direction, he actually created a complete, detailed 8-week training program for beginners to prepare for their first sprint triathlon. And you could download that training program. It's basically a PDF. It's like over 100 pages long. You could download that training program, and it was for something like $30. So I immediately went and I purchased the training program, and I started to follow it. And I'm now just entering week 3 of my training, and I've been swimming twice a week. I've been riding my bike twice a week. I've been running twice a week. And it's that experience of starting to prepare for the triathlon that has got me really, really thinking about this entire thing. And I said, you know what, there's a lot that I am learning from this experience that is directly related to success in business. And I wanted to come here and bring those lessons to you so that you can make that correlation as well to your law firm and really see how this is a great example of how we should be behaving as business owners. So there's 2 primary areas where I received inspiration. One is from the training plan itself, and then from my own experiences in preparing for this race, deciding to do the race, preparing for the race, and going through the motions. So let's talk about the training plan first. One thing I noticed with the training plan is that the first week is really, really light and easy. The second week kind of builds on that and gets a little more difficult, and then the third week gets even more difficult. And over time, over the first 5 weeks, it gets progressively more difficult. After that, in the last 3 weeks leading up to the race, it gets lighter until finally the week of the race, you're doing really, really light workouts, and very little time is being spent on your training. And the reason behind that is when you're first starting, your ligaments and tendons and muscles are not used to the exercises that you're going to be doing. And what happens is that if you start training hard right away, you'll end up injuring yourself because your body is not ready to handle that kind of strain. And you kind of need to stretch things a little bit and get them into the right places and the right flexibility to be able to handle the amount of load that you're going to put on it. What I learned from that is that when you're looking to create some sort of new success in your firm, as you head into it, don't jump in and start doing the hardest work right away. You need to start adding to your plate slowly. You need to start adding things slowly to get used to the new things that you're going to be working on, to give yourself an opportunity to put things into action and to try them and to learn from those experiences instead of trying to do everything at once. At the same time, as you're nearing the finish line, as you're nearing your goal, you should be decreasing the amount of effort that needs to go in to get there, because the bulk of the effort should have already been put in. So that's the first lesson. The next thing that I found in the training plan is triathlon is 3 sports. It's the swim, the bike, and the run. And what the training plan does is it has you do a different piece of the race each day. So one day I'll do a swim, the next day I'll do a bike, the next day I'll do a run, and then I'll go back to a swim. Now, it doesn't always work perfectly that way because although in the training plan it's set up that way, it might be more convenient for me to do a swim on a Monday and a Wednesday, so I'll only have one day in between, and then so I'll do one of the others on a Tuesday, and then I'll end up having the bikes or the runs to closer to each other because I have the swims closer to each other. However, you want to try to alternate between the three so that you give yourself ample time to recover, to be able to grow with each sport, because twice a week is more than adequate for each sport to get ready for the race. Now, the correlation here to your firm and to moving forward is that, and I've mentioned this in previous episodes, but I'll touch on it here again, and I should really do another episode really on understanding how to plan your quarters. But we're a big believer here of doing quarterly planning and having 90-day goals. And when you set a 90-day goal, our recommendation is that you have no more than 5 projects at a time, preferably 3. So 3 to 5 projects at once going on in the firm that are all pulling towards your 90-day goal. Now, this is obviously besides for just your routine, regular business as usual. So a project, for example, might be to overhaul your website, or a project might be to implement a new marketing strategy, or a project might be to, bring on some crucial staff members. So when you have 3 different projects that you are working on in one quarter, this is very similar to three separate sports that you're preparing for that are going to be in the same race. And what I learned from this alternate between the sports every day is that if you have key things that you need to do this week for each of the projects, rather than trying to do a piece of them each day, take each project and just take the what needs to be done for that project and break it into 1 or 2 pieces and focus on that for 1 or 2 days of the week. And this way, you're trying to do your project work gets spread out more evenly throughout the week. And you're also not trying to do work on the same project 2 days in a row, which could cause fatigue. It could cause brain fatigue. It could cause you to be less creative. It could cause you to not think things through properly. Giving yourself some extra time to just kind of let things sit and stew around, and will give you a lot more clarity when you get back to it. So this is kind of really cool to think of this in this way and try to give yourself that space and that room to think, to process, and recharge to be able to be most effective the next time that you tackle it. And then finally, from the training plan, the last thing that I learned is that it's all about consistency. And this is not so much written in the plan as it is when I was listening to the podcast as he talked about your training and talked about your planning, is that it is more important to get out there and do your 6 trainings a week and have each one be a much lighter training than to miss a couple of them and then, try to make up for it by working harder in the other sessions that you are actually keeping to. So consistency actually makes each training session easier, and it also makes you stronger and better at the end. And the way that correlates is back to this thing with goal setting is if you have a project that you're working on and you skip a week and then you try to work on it the next week, you're always trying to play catch up. You're always trying to get it back on track, and it's doomed. You're just not going to make your goal at the end of the quarter if you're in that kind of action and reactive mode. So consistency is really key to be able to make real progress in the forward movement of your firm. And that consistency requires being very strategic and diligent and making sure that you're taking the actions necessary on a regular basis. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this consistent action in the next section, which is where I share my own experiences. And I'm going to jump into that right now. So here's some of my own experiences in starting to put this training into action, as well as some of the mindset that I've been getting myself into for this triathlon preparation. So the first thing is that I made a determination when I started that my goal for this race is to finish the race. I'm not trying to win the race by beating out other triathletes. My entire goal, because I've never done a triathlon before and because I lived a sedentary lifestyle and I don't know, where my body's at, is just to prepare my body to be able to finish the race. And I can walk away feeling very accomplished by the fact that I've completed it, even though I might not have been first, second, or third place. So right away, that directly correlates to when you're starting something new with your firm. Let's say that you are introducing a new marketing strategy, right? So your first goal when you introduce a new marketing strategy should be to implement the strategy, finish the race. The results don't matter at the beginning. Whether you saw positive results when it is irrelevant. You got to put the pieces in place. You got to get whatever the marketing plan is, whether it's, putting out a piece of content on a regular basis, or whether it's starting a newsletter for your firm, or whether it's running paid advertisements, having a free thing that you're giving out on the internet that people are signing up for that are going to give you leads. And whatever it is, any of these things, there's all kinds of technology and resources and writing or recording or whatever. There's a ton of things that you might have to do to put the pieces in place. And when you approach it from the first time, just to finish the project, just to get it completed from beginning to end and actually have it turned on as your first step, then it takes a lot of the pressure off from needing to see results, needing to see immediate action. Anytime that you're in a rush to have immediate results, to have a win early, you're usually setting yourself up for failure. And this is a key point that we can see from this example, and it's really clear when it comes to the triathlon. Obviously, sure, could I try to race based on time? Yeah, I could. But if I do that, then I might deplete my energy too early and not even be able to finish the race. Or I might injure myself in the race and not be able to finish the race. Or I might do something illegal for the race and not be able to finish. So if my focus is just to finish it, then I could take all of that other motivation to screw up out of the equation. The next thing is, and I mentioned this already in the training plan, is consistency is key. However, from my own personal experiences, I'm already seeing that if I am consistent in my training, I'm able to build from one session to the next, and I can actually feel the difference. So the first time that I went out for a run, I did a 25-minute run. The next time I went out, I did a 35-minute run. And the next time I went out, I did a 45-minute run. If I had skipped the 35-minute run, I wouldn't have been able to complete the 45-minute run. And I would have just set my training back completely and maybe perhaps not been able to complete the race at the end. Who knows? Now, the next thing that I learned, and I just learned this the other day because I've been having a really hard time with the running piece. It's tough for me to go out there and to run. So first of all, the motivation to do it is difficult because I don't have somebody there. So the race itself is enough of a motivator to get me to commit to doing it. But then when I actually am supposed to go out and do it, I procrastinate and so on. I eventually get it done, but it becomes a much more difficult thing. The other thing is that I don't push myself as hard, right? I've been doing the run, and when things get difficult, I'll slow down. I'll do a walk for a little bit, then I'll run some more. Whereas I'm supposed to be running at the same pace throughout the entire thing. Well, I just had a running partner, and what I found is that as long as he didn't need to take a break, I was pushing myself because I wanted to keep up. I didn't want to be the wuss. I didn't want to be the one who's asking for a break. And what I ended up doing is the full 30-minute run without slowing down and taking a break. And I was able to do it. So a training partner is key. And obviously within your firm, you're not going to be looking at, another firm, for example, to be your training partner, or maybe you will. If you're in a mastermind of some kind, or you have another attorney that is on, some similar path, then you could compare notes. But more likely, you can have somebody within your organization, within your firm, that can be the person that you're bouncing things off of, and you're holding yourself accountable to. Somebody else can make sure that, hey, did you do this task today? Or we can do this together and use two minds, and pull twice as hard with the two of us together. So having a partner, having somebody who you're accountable to, and who can make sure that you're taking the steps necessary, can be really good and really effective for your forward movement. Now, the next thing that I learned is to eliminate the naysayers and surround yourself with cheerleaders. Early on, when I started telling people that I'm preparing for a triathlon, some people were like, "Oh, have you ever done a triathlon before? That's pretty soon, 8 weeks. I don't think you're going to be able to do that. People don't do that quickly." Those are naysayers, and that kind of negativity is not going to help move me forward. But then there are people who are like, "Whoa, we're so proud of you, and this is amazing, and you totally can do it, and it's really cool that you're doing this." Those are cheerleaders. In your firm, when you set goals, when you create projects, there are going to be naysayers, there are going to be cheerleaders. You need to figure out who those naysayers are and cut them out of your life as you're trying to achieve that goal, because they are going to discourage you, they are going to dissuade you, they are going to slow you down. Your cheerleaders are going to give you the positive energy you need to make the changes necessary and do the work necessary to get it done. The next thing that I learned is that schedule it on the calendar. And I'm going to lump this together with the next one because they kind of go hand in hand. And that is, I also learned to get the workout in early. So I kind of now do these two together. So I do is at the beginning of the week, I look at the training sessions I need to do for the following week. And then I look at my schedule for the week, where I'm going to be, and when is it best to get these workouts in. And now that I learned this in the first couple of weeks, I am now trying to get the workout in as early as possible. Because what I found is that if I schedule a run for lunchtime, and then something happens in the workday and I need to do something else lunchtime, I push the run off. Then I think, okay, I'm going to do it at night. And at night, I put the kids to bed, and then I'm tired, and I don't want to do it. And it becomes a very difficult thing to get done. However, if I get up early and I get out at 6 a.m. and do a run and come back, and then I start my day, now I'm invigorated for the day. I've already got it taken care of, and it's a done deal. So when you're working on project work in the firm, number one, put it on the calendar. And actually, my friend Alon David has a planner company, and they have a planner called the 90X Planner. And I'm actually going to quickly Google to see if I could find their website and share that with you. So it's 90xgoalplanner.com, 90xgoalplanner.com. And what this planner does is it does exactly what I'm laying out, which is you're setting your goals for the 90 days, break it down into projects, and then you're going to outline the tasks that you need to do for each project every day. So you can do this, or you could use an electronic, your Google Calendar or whatever it is that you use for your calendaring. But the key is that at the beginning of the week, you map out what is it, the thing that you're going to do each day that is going to move this project forward. Then you're going to schedule that your project work is the first thing that you do in the firm before you get sidetracked by email and by ongoing casework and dealing with internal staffing issues and things like that. There's a ton of things that are going to take your attention away. And if you don't do this first thing when you start your day, what's going to end up happening is that you're going to miss it, and you're going to start missing it. And what that's going to mean is that you do not complete and accomplish your goal at the end of the quarter. And that is the number one reason why firms stay stagnant and don't grow, is because these projects are the key to growth. And if you can't complete the project, if you can't get it done, then you're not going to grow the firm. You're not going to achieve the results that you want. So schedule it on the calendar and get the workout in early. Well, that's basically the things that I've learned, a ton of things that I see in my training for the triathlon that can be directly correlated to the success of your law firm. So what can you do to take action today with this information? Number one, you can create a 90-day goal if you don't already have one. You can break it down into three projects that you need to do in the firm. Now, not all three projects have to be pulling towards that 90-day goal. It could be that there's something else you want to get done that needs to be one of those projects. Make it a project. Now, take that project and break it down into a plan for every single week to get the project completed in a single quarter. Now, the way to do this is to begin with the end in mind. The way to do this is to look at what is the goal I'm trying to achieve, and then what does that look like? How did I get here? What did I have to do in order to get to this final destination? And then you work your way backwards into figuring out what needs to happen every week in order to get there. And then finally, you want to schedule the plan, and you want to make the project work the first item on your agenda, and make sure that you stick to that schedule and to the best of your ability. Obviously, nobody's perfect, and in going through this process, I'm finding that I need to tweak things along the way. There's definitely some days I can't get up at 6 a.m. for a workout. The night before we had a wedding, or I had something else going on, and I wasn't able to get to bed early enough to get up that early. And then I need to tweak things and change them and make them different. Or some days I'm working with my personal trainer, and that's at a specific time, and it's best if I do my cardio workout at right before or right after that. So, in those days my calendar will look different. So it's okay to have exceptions, but understand that the more emphasis and priority you put on the project work, the earlier in the day you get it done, the more likely you are to complete it and to stay on track. So I hope that this information was helpful. I tried a different style of episode here to use a real-life example of something I'm going through that can help you as well. And let me know if this was helpful to you. And as usual, thank you so much for listening to the show. When people are searching for shows to listen to, a lot of the results that come up are based on, ratings and reviews of the show. And then people also make the determination of whether to listen to it by the ratings and reviews. So I know that we have an outro that goes out every few episodes that asks you for it. But I'm going to mention it here. Attorneys are very busy people. We're all tight for time, but law firm owners specifically are extremely busy. And I know that it's not easy to take the time to go and do a rating and review of the show. But if you're enjoying the show, there are other people out there who need this information as well. And you can impact their life by leaving a rating and review. And I'm not going to tell you what you should be rating it as. Leave an honest one. Let us know what you think, but leave it public so that other people can see it and make a determination on whether this is the right show for them. So I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you following along, and any feedback that you have, please take some time, go into iTunes or whatever your podcast directory is, and leave us a rating and review. And I'll catch you soon. We have some great interviews coming up, and I'm really looking forward to the upcoming weeks, because there's a lot of exciting stuff going on with the podcast. Take care. Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.